everybody. Hello. Welcome back to Sasser House. This is my dad, Tommy. This is Odie, my nephew. Say hi.
Hi.
This is my mama, Kelly. And Chris is out there in the garden. And we've been working. We're not just putting him to work. We've been working too. But we are officially planting 2024's garden today. We're so excited.
We're so excited.
It's going to be so fun. So I've got my notebook here that I've been keeping track of everything that we've done this year. And we're about to plan out and lay out the garden. So we've laid out all of our seeds back there. You can see them between Odie and Dad. And we have got our notebook and we're going to try and lay out our garden to be as successful as the Lord allows. We're just going to do our best. Since our garden is so much bigger than it was last year, I knew that I needed to have a plan. It was really overwhelming for me to think about the layout of this garden because it is so much bigger, and I had a lot of seeds to plant, and I wanted to make sure that I put companion plants beside each other, and I didn't plant anything besides something that it didn't thrive next to, and all of that stuff. So I just started out by drawing a big old rectangle so that I would have a good place to start. So then once we find out how many rows we have, I can draw those in here, and I could do like P for pepper, or T for tomato, C for corn.
You got ice.
And we'll do it that way.
Okay.
So behind us we have the main part of 2024's garden. It is much bigger than what we had last year.
A little too big.
But we'll see. I've bought a lot of seeds, so we're going to sow a lot of seeds today. But Chris is currently tilling. He got a tiller at the Home Depot. It's the Legend Force.
Yeah.
And he has loved it. He has tilled up this garden a couple times, so we are making our rows. And then once our rows are made, we're going to start sowing all of our seeds. So this is what the Roma tomato plants look like that we got at the co-op today. And they look really good. And here's what mine look like. The coloring is not the same. Mine look a little stressed out. So it'll be interesting to see how mine do. But as far as size-wise goes, they've grown to about the same size, which is exciting and I think a win for me. And since it was my first year doing seeds indoors and I really didn't know what I was doing, I didn't buy any type of super fancy lighting or anything like that to help them grow. I think that this would be a win. So we'll see if they live. It won't be a win if they all die, but if they live, then it'll be a win. And next year, maybe, if this goes well, we can get some better lights and we can try and get them as good as these look that we got at the co-op. So we just realized our hose ain't quite long enough for this big old garden. So our plan is to wet down our rows in sections. And then we will go through and we will sow our seeds. And then I have a watering can, and then we can go back over and water them in to make sure they stay good and moist. So we made this little grid that has all of our rows. So we have 6 rows, and if I take this down, you can see our garden. And what I wanted was to be able to hold this up and look at the garden and say, okay, you know, if I'm facing it, my right-hand corner is beans, then we've got squash, then we've got peppers, and on down the line. So that'll help me know what I planted and where I planted. So that is my plan to try and stay organized. All right, first seeds of the garden going into the soil are green beans, Chris's favorite and only vegetable that he will consume. I cannot even explain to you how excited I was for this day. Not only was I excited to start 2024's garden because I had been thinking about it for so long, buying up seeds, starting seeds indoors with y'all. I was so excited to have all of my family over for us to make this memory of starting this garden together. My mom and dad still live back in East Tennessee, and then my sister and brother-in-law and their 2 babies live about an hour away from us. And so it's rare that we're all together at our house, and so it just meant the world to me to have everybody there planting this garden. One thing we are changing in our approach to gardening this year is how we water our garden. Last year when we first started gardening, we were watching every YouTube video we could find. I was reading the Farmer's Almanac. I was reading every article I could find online, and everything that we read basically said that we needed some type of extremely expensive irrigation system. Well, to me, I was just completely discouraged by that because I did not want to spend hundreds, if not thousands of dollars to have a backyard garden. That just totally defeated the purpose to me. And after talking to our neighbor who has been gardening for years and years and years, he told us that he does not water his garden at all. And when he told us that, I was like, what do you mean you don't water your garden at all? And he said, I just let the rain water it. He said, you don't have to water vegetables every day. And now that I've talked to more folks about this who have been long-time gardeners, they agree that you don't have to water vegetables every day. You can just let the rain water them. In fact, it's better to not water them every day because you can definitely overwater some of these crops. But one thing I have heard is that when growing flowers, those do require more consistent watering. I have also heard that if you start watering your crops, then you have to keep up with whatever water schedule that you are on. So last year, we watered probably every other day, especially if there wasn't any rain. And we just used a little sprinkler that we got for probably $15 at Walmart. And it did fine. But this year, our plan is to truly not water unless we go an extended amount of time without rain. And if we do, we'll water everything really well once and then we'll move on. So my sister here is now planting our second row of the garden, which is our squash. I'm so excited. I've waited for this for so long. So we have one full row all the way back there. How many feet do you think that is? From here to there? 100. 100 feet. Maybe. But it's a lot of feet. One whole row of green beans. So hopefully we'll get a lot of green beans and we can can them up. Abby is starting our squash. We're doing zucchini, and then we're doing a green striped squash, and then we're doing butternut squash on this row. Last year, my zucchini plants were the most prolific plant in the whole garden. We got so much zucchini. And this year we are going to have so much more if it goes anything like last year because we are planting a ton of seeds. But I'm really excited to come up with new ways to use up this zucchini. Now we're going to plant our row of peppers, and I'm so excited to do this because I grew these from seed in the garage, and so I will be so thrilled if these survive and give us peppers. I'll be a little bit disappointed if they don't because they're like my babies. So in this one, we have got Santa Fe Grande and jalapeno. So we're just going to start down this row and transplant these little cells into the dirt. I am so partial to these little baby plants that we started together from seed indoors. It actually amazes me that they look as good as they do. And I know they're still small, but I've been able to see them grow out in the garden, and they are all thriving and doing so well. And so my hope is that it will encourage you, if you want to start your seeds indoors as well, that you can do a whole lot with a little. You know, all the videos that I watched and every article that I read that talked about starting seeds indoors acted like you needed all kinds of fancy equipment and a really nice setup, or you needed a lot of natural light at a window, and we didn't have any of that at all. And so I really thought that there was going to be no way for us to do this without spending a ton of money. And I did purchase some heat mats from Amazon that were $25. So that was really affordable. And then, of course, I bought my seeds, but I found these seed starter cells on Facebook, and I got them for $1 each. So I only got 5 of them, and I spent $5 total getting these cell trays so that I could start my seeds indoors. We also got some growing lights off of Facebook Marketplace, and I only spent maybe $15 on those, but we ended up moving these inside in front of a window, which I was really afraid to do at first, but I'm so glad that we did. They grew great, and I really think that we'll try it again just like that next growing season. After we planted our seeds or any of our little baby plants, I would go back through and water everything in really good just to make sure that I gave it everything it needed to have the best potential to grow that it could have. We have done about, I'd say, halfway of peppers on our third row. So now we have some of these pumpkins. Sorry, my fingers are dirty and I'm getting my seed packets dirty. So these are our Cinderella pumpkins. These get really, really big. And then I just bought these today on a whim. I shouldn't have done it. I don't need any more pumpkins, but I just wanted to do it. These are called Blue Doll. So they're cute, large blue pumpkins. They're so cute. And it says that they are great for baking and cooking.
There you
So
go.
very versatile. And then these Long Island cheese pumpkins. So we're going to do a couple of these down the rest of this row.
What is that called?
Long Island cheese. I am so excited to hopefully have pumpkins that we can get from our own backyard, but I have learned since planting these that I planted them too early in order to have a harvest by early September or October. We'll probably have a harvest by August from what I've read online, which is earlier than I would like, but as long as we keep them out of the sun, maybe we'll be able to carry these over into the fall as well. Pumpkins done. Ain't nobody gonna be buying pumpkins this year, baby. So we are having a slight change of scene. We're over at our raised beds, and if y'all were watching with us back in November, we planted garlic in this raised bed, but we didn't have a fence up and it all got pulled up by a bunch of critters. So now we've got this raised bed with nothing in it. Hold on. As I say that, I do find one little garlic in there, but I think that it'll be okay. I think most of them are dyed and dried up. So what I'm gonna have my sister do is plant some sweet potatoes in here. All right, so we're skipping our third row for a minute because Chris is currently building a chicken coop, and he has to put some cattle panel and T-posts in for trellising for our tomatoes. So our tomatoes are gonna go on our third row. So we're gonna go ahead and plant our fourth row and probably our fifth row before we get our tomatoes planted. But I'm gonna go through and just pull out any big clumps of grass. We've tilled this quite a few times, but we still have some grass clumps in here. And I just wanna try and get as much out of it as I can. So in this row, we are going to plant okra. We're gonna start with okra, and then we're gonna do, I think, some watermelon and some cucumber. So these need to be a foot apart and a 1/2 inch deep. Now we've got about a quarter of that row left that we've got to figure out what to do with. Our very last row is going to be our corn, and then we've got our tomatoes. Chris is about to put in our trellis for our tomatoes. So instead of doing our corn in one long straight row the way we planted everything else, the back of the seed packet said to plant it in rows of no less than 4 across. So I ended up doing like a little patch of corn in the back of the garden. So back in that back corner is where we did our corn, which leaves this whole row. Sorry, Chris is building over there behind the trailer. We have about a quarter of the way back there that we can plant. And I think I'm going to do flowers back there. We planted this out in our okra and our watermelon. And then right here where Chris put these T-posts up, we're going to get some cattle panel for trellising for our tomatoes. So I'm going to plant the tomatoes next. So once again, these are the tomatoes I got at the co-op, and these are the tomatoes that I've grown in my windowsill. Mine look pretty stressed out. So I'm hoping getting in the dirt we'll chill them out and that we'll be able to get a harvest from them. Since I am editing this video a couple weeks after we filmed it, I can let you know that the plants that we grew in our windowsill are doing so good. I am so thrilled to know that we started majority of these plants this year from seed, because that is just the most budget-friendly way to do a garden. There are so many costs that come with doing a backyard garden, especially one this size. And if I had bought as many tomato plants as we planted, if I had bought them already started the way I did with this one pack at the co-op, it would have cost an arm and a leg. So it feels really good to know that we were able to grow a ton of plants this year from seed. Good morning. It is 2 days later since I last saw you out in the garden. Chris and I were out of town yesterday because I was singing in South Pittsburgh, Tennessee for the Cornbread Festival. But we are home this morning. Well, Chris just left for work. I'm home this morning, and I leave for work in about 2 hours. So I'm going to run out to the garden and get some last minute things in the ground because we are about to go out of town. And I've been checking the weather. It's going to rain about every 2 days, which is perfect. And I'm so thankful. But I wanted to talk you through what my thoughts are to finish out the garden. So the back row of the garden, we have pretty much an entire row unplanted that we don't know what to do with. We have got plenty of green beans planted, plenty of squash planted. The one thing that I don't want to do is overplant and then we waste what we grow. We can give stuff away. We can obviously preserve and can it, which is what I'm really excited to do, to try and put up food for us to eat on that we grew. But I don't want to have so much that then we are wasting some. That is not my goal here. So I don't think I need any more squash or any more green beans planted. Now I do have a lot of flowers that I could plant from seed. I don't know how they would do. We could just throw out the seeds and see what happens. So that's one thing that we could do on that last row. In our row with our tomatoes, we have about a third of the row unused. So I'm going to plant some cucumber on that row, and maybe we'll just plant it all out, the rest of it with cucumber, or I don't know. That's something that I'm trying to figure out. Another thing that I want to do on the row with the tomatoes is interplant with marigolds. So marigolds are really, really awesome to have in your garden because they attract pollinators, but a lot of pests and bugs don't like the smell of the marigold flowers. Another thing about marigolds is they are so easy to grow. One of the very first gardening experiences I ever had was when I was in either the kindergarten or first grade. For Mother's Day, my teacher had us all start a little marigold seed for our moms. So every kid in the class got to plant a couple marigold seeds in a pot. We grew them and we gave them to our moms for Mother's Day. My mom planted those marigolds in her flower bed, and they grew and grew and grew and grew. They're so easy to grow. And then my grandmother taught me this. So if you were looking at a marigold flower, a lot of times they'll bloom and then some of the heads will die off. And so you go through and you pick off the dead ones. You just deadhead the top of the flower. But when you do that, you can pull out the top of that dried up flower right from the casing, I guess. I don't know what you call that. And you have got, probably almost 100 seeds inside that you can replant for the next year. So I saved a baggie of a bunch of the dead heads of my marigold flowers from last year. I grew these from seeds that I got at Walmart. Let's see, I think the original seed packet is right here. I got this seed packet at Walmart for 50 cents. I grew a bunch of marigolds last year. I still have some seeds in this bag that I could plant, but now I have all these new seeds from the flowers that we grew. So a 50-cent investment goes on and on and on. And then this summer, we'll just continue that. As these marigolds grow, when they die, I'll deadhead them, save them for the next season, and we'll plant them again. All right, so I just wet the soil down to make my life a little bit easier, and I thought it would be best to start on our row with our tomatoes. So what I'm gonna do is really just kind of sprinkle these in and press them down and gently cover them up. And I'm just gonna sprinkle them all in here in between each of our tomato plants. After I got all of our marigolds planted in, I went ahead at the end of our tomato row and planted a couple cucumber seeds. And our last step was to water in all those seeds that we planted, and then we were officially done planting 2024's backyard garden. We are so excited that we get to go on this journey with you guys this season. If you like this video, please consider subscribing because there will be a ton more garden content to come in the next couple of months. We love y'all, and we'll see you on the next one.